news tonight from Kansas City, Kansas. A Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office deputy has died after being shot earlier this afternoon. We just learned that officer's name is Elijah Ming. KMBC9's Darissa White is live from the Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office with more tonight, Darissa.
Jackson, that's right. We just learned that deputy's name. His name is Elijah Ming. Now, the Wyandotte County Sheriff's Department detailed what happened. They tell us around 3:30 p.m. KCK PD responded to a call for backup from the Wyandotte County Sheriff's Department. They tell us that earlier that a sheriff's deputy that we now know as Elijah Ming was providing security for someone gathering belongings from a home in the 2600 block of South 30th Street. But according to officials, that routine call quickly escalated. That suspect inside the home came out and confronted that deputy, and that's when gunfire was exchanged. As more officers arrived to the scene, officials say that suspect continued firing a gun before barricading himself inside the home. Now, Deputy Elijah Ming was shot and rushed to an area hospital with life-threatening injuries, where officials tell us that Elijah Ming did die from those injuries. Now, KCK PD tells us the suspect eventually emerged from the home with gunshot wounds. He was also taken to an area hospital, and he's said to be in stable condition. Now, Elijah Ming worked for the Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office for 9 years. Now, Mayor Gardner said that this was just a senseless act of violence, and he also sends condolences to Elijah Ming's family. That's the very latest from KCK. Darissa White, KMBC 9 News.
It's tragic. Thank you, Darissa. When the shots rang out, our neighbors went running for cover. KMBC 9's Alan Shope was also on the scene. He has reaction from neighbors that were home.
All of a sudden, I heard like 4 or maybe 5 pops.
Neighbors living just houses away near 30th and Hagman talking about what they heard and saw on Saturday night.
And then all of a sudden you hear like a million sirens coming out.
Neighbors say police officers and deputies from nearly every area department responding, dozens of police rushing to the scene. One neighbor watching as they took an officer away in an ambulance.
One of the women cops that come up here, you could tell she was very, very distraught, and they had to take her. I mean, she wasn't bleeding or nothing, but she was very distraught and upset, and they took her in an ambulance.
Darlene Verser lives directly across the street from the house where the shooting happened. She said the neighborhood is shaken.
It's scary. It's very scary. It's breathtaking, and it's very concerning.
Another neighbor said they don't know the family, but they were familiar with the kids that lived in the house.
We personally didn't know him. We would see always little kids that would wave up at us out of that house.
It's scary that this neighborhood has come to this. Yeah. I've only been here for 13 years. Some people have been here a lot longer. This neighborhood was never like that.
You got to have some kind of emotion for whoever it was,
In Kansas City, Kansas.
All right. Peace and blessings, all praises to the Most High. This episode is about a white violent criminal, a thug with a long criminal history, who killed that deputy, Elijah Ming, in cold blood as he was coming on a service call to help someone get their belongings, evidently out of the house that Shawn Harris was in. Now, they gave you a little bit of details about the situation, but I'm going to play this other article that's going to give you an in-depth look on how violent this man was, how he barricaded himself inside the house and continued firing gunshots while police officers arrived. But yet, he was allowed to live. Just check this out. Then I'm going to give you some more information on how deep his criminal history goes and why he shouldn't even been out in the first place. Now, this is in the wake of everybody talking about how violent Black people are, how violent Black people's crimes are, but yet and still, this case has received little to no attention in the national realm when it comes to violence, gun violence against police, and just senseless violence as a whole. Just check this out. These videos are used for fair use for literary and commentary purposes only. Just watch.
Story in KCK. A deputy with the Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office has been shot and killed in the line of duty. Here's what we know as of this morning. Elijah Ming is the deputy who was killed. Sheriff's Office says he worked with the department for nearly 9 years. He's also listed on KU's website as a 2022 graduate of the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. Deputy Ming was responding to a domestic dispute at a home near 30th and Shawnee Drive around 3:30 yesterday afternoon. That's in the Argentine neighborhood of KCK. It's just east of I-635 and south of J.C. Harmon High School. According to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, a woman requested a police presence while she moved out of the home because a man threatened her with a gun. Deputy Ming and an officer from the KCK Police Department were the first on scene, went to the door. That's when 38-year-old Shawn Harris shot multiple rounds at the officers. Deputy Ming was unfortunately hit. The other officer was uninjured. During an exchange of gunfire, the suspect was also hit while barricading himself inside the home. Harris did eventually surrender to police and was taken to the hospital. KCTV5's Chandler Watkins spoke with law enforcement, has the latest from the Wyandotte County Courthouse.
Wyandotte County Sheriff Daniel Soptic says that officers responded to the initial call around 3:30, and that's when they were fired on. Deputy Elijah Ming, a 9-year veteran with the department, was struck and taken to the hospital where he later died.
I would also ask for prayer for his family, the members of the Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office, and this community as we navigate this tragedy.
KCK Mayor Tyrone Gardner also spoke at the press conference, saying he was at the hospital where he spoke to the deputy's family.
There are no words or comfort that can ever ease the pain of losing someone you love to senseless violence. To say that today has been the hardest day for me as the mayor of Kansas City, Kansas Unified Government is an understatement.
Officials say the investigation has been taken over by the Kansas Bureau of Investigations. Reporting in KCK, Chandler Watkins, KCTV5 News.
Now, I can't even lie. That Mayor Tyrone Gardner looked like a poor man's version of Tyler Perry, or Tyler Perry's little cousin, Tyrone Perry. But you hear him speaking about the situation, as well as the reporter speaking about the suspect was able to barricade himself inside the house, then safely surrender after firing at multiple times at officers. Now, how many of these videos that we have seen where officers just imagine in their frame of mind that a black man has a gun and then he is riddled with bullets? Yet this man has already killed an officer and continued to fire, but yet he's allowed to surrender without incidents. But notice, none of those articles actually showed you a picture of him. So who is this criminal thug white boy who found it necessary to shoot at an officer before that officer got to the door? Just take a listen at this article. They are finally going to show you who he is. Then I'm going to tell you who he is based on his criminal record. Just watch.
At 5, as the community mourns a Wyandotte County deputy killed in the line of duty. The man being held responsible for his death is now charged.
Funeral arrangements are still pending for Deputy Elijah Ming. The Wyandotte County DA filed a capital murder charge against his accused killer, Shawn Harris, making his first appearance in court today.
Ming's death stems from a shooting in KCK's Argentine neighborhood on Saturday. A woman was trying to move out, but said a man with a gun was threatening her. When Ming and a KCK officer got to the home, police say Harris shot and killed Ming.
Live at 5, KCTV5's Grace Smith joins us now. And Grace, do we know if the DA is planning to seek the death penalty against Harris?
Well, Brad, he has 10 days to decide that. He says he'll talk with Ming's family, the police chief, and sheriff to help make that decision, all of whom were here in the courthouse earlier this morning giving an update as charges have now officially been filed.
He was one of the good ones.
And this is really hitting hard.
This should not have happened.
Standing together once again, Wyandotte County DA Mark Dupree, along with KCKPD Chief Oakman and Sheriff Daniel Soptic, thanked the community for the overwhelming support they've seen since Saturday.
We have had people reach out to us from across this country at all levels of government, and it really does show the love that this whole country has for us and public safety.
Now it's time for the court process to play out and find justice for Deputy Elijah Ming and his family.
He made the ultimate sacrifice for every citizen of Wyandotte County.
This man, Shawn Harris, now is charged with capital murder as well as 1 count of criminal possession of a weapon by a felon.
It's important to note that the crime of capital murder is punishable by life in prison and or the death penalty.
Dupree now has 10 days to decide if he wants to seek the death penalty.
This decision is not one that is made lightly.
Bringing up the tragedy in 2018, which took the lives of 2 Wyandotte County deputies, the defendant taking a plea deal earlier this year, removing the death penalty off the table.
We want to make sure that that is a road that we want to go back down to, and that this community is ready and willing to go back down.
Some people who came to pay their respects to Ming felt passionately about the charges.
The way I feel about it is I feel if you take a life senseless, especially law enforcement, that you should have your life taken, because if you're going to kill a cop, you'll kill anybody.
And outside of the courtroom, one thing is certain: the love, respect, and honor for Deputy Ming will last forever.
His life will not soon be forgotten. And the impact that he had and continues to have on this community is forever a standard that we all will strive to reach.
And as you can see, the memorial around and on Deputy's patrol car there is continuing to grow into this hour as well. People stopping by all throughout the day, giving their respects to Deputy Ming. We will, of course, keep you updated on this case as we learn more. For now, live in KCK, Grace Smith, KCTV5 News.
All right, so there they have the DA, the black DA, and they eventually charged him with the capital murder. So they are seeking the death penalty in this case. And you saw the other incident where the black guy killed 2 police officers, yet he took a plea and got that deal off the table. Now, once again, President Trump just tweeted yesterday about, a black man stabbing a white woman on the subway, but I never heard him talk about this instance. Tell me why. Could it be because this does not meet the narrative of the terrible black man harming harmless white people? Could that be the issue? And how terrible was this white man? Just watch these next 2 clips, and it's going to give you an in-depth look of how evil and how criminal this man was and how he shouldn't even been on the streets to commit this act. Just watch.
Thank you. Fox 4 learning more about the criminal history of Shawn Harris. He's the man accused of killing Deputy Elijah Ming last Saturday.
Harris remains behind bars on a capital murder charge. The issue, should he still have been behind bars on the day of the shooting based on his prior criminal record? Fox 4's Hannah King joins us near the growing memorial in honor of Deputy Ming, the Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office. Hannah.
Hey, John. Well, an attorney in the Metro tells me had Harris been punished fully for a violation of the offender registration, he'd likely still be in prison and likely still be behind bars this weekend, and this growing memorial might not be here.
Had Shawn Harris been prosecuted, to my way of thinking properly, he would have been in prison, and he would not have been in a position where he could have killed Deputy Ming.
According to court documents, Shawn Harris is accused of abusing a child in May of 2024. Garnett, Kansas PD investigated. Originally charged with 1 count of child abuse, a felony, then 2 additional counts of battery for the same instance, both misdemeanors. Months into the case, the felony case of child abuse was dismissed.
In the year 2024, Shawn Harris picked up 2 different felony charges in 2 separate cases in Anderson County, Kansas. The first was failure to register as an offender under the Kansas Offender Registration Act. So what that tells me is that he had some kind of qualifying prior conviction.
And under Kansas law, required to register as an offender.
There was a charge filed against him indicating or alleging that he had not registered as required. Then he picks up a charge of abuse of a child in Anderson County. That case in and of itself, if convicted, would have carried up to 136 months in prison because of his prior criminal record. The failure to register crime would have carried up to 46 months in prison, right off the top of my head. due to his prior criminal record.
James Spees, a criminal defense attorney, shares his thoughts.
What I understand is that the child abuse case went to a preliminary hearing, but he was not bound over for trial on child abuse. He was, the judge did not find probable cause. And so he was facing 2 misdemeanors in that case. In a plea agreement, he pleaded guilty to those 2 misdemeanors, and the state agreed to dismiss the offender registration violation. Charged him in March. He failed to report in February.
But it was dismissed.
It says he failed to report a job change. Yeah, it looks like it was just time served. 208 days he served in jail.
And for the 2 counts of battery, time served.
I announced the filing of charges.
7 months later, he's accused of killing a Kansas deputy.
And based on that criminal history, if a prosecutor in Anderson County had insisted upon a guilty plea to the offender registration, he would have been looking at prison. He would have been looking up to 46 months in prison. And even if they'd cut him some sort of plea deal where maybe they reduced the amount of time, likely he would have been in prison instead of shooting Deputy Ming.
But in this instance, and Harris, over a decade ago, picked up a robbery charge here in Wyandotte County. He did spend a decade in prison. Spees says even then his criminal history was already at the highest it could be. He, again, was sent to prison for over 10 years. And as of today, Shawn Harris is not listed on the KBI's public offender registry. We emailed the Garnett police to get a little bit more background into his criminal history. As far as Harris's history, we were referred to the county prosecutor's office. We reached out to the Anderson County prosecutor's office for comment. We have not heard back. John.
All right, so there you hear the extensivity, and I know that's not a word, but I just made it up. The extensivity of his criminal record, with the lawyer saying, look, he could have been facing 136 months on one charge and 46 months on the other. That's about 15, 16, 17 years. Yet and still he had the complexion for the protection for the connection, in which they didn't get him for the child abuse, the battery. They gave him a little misdemeanor charge and allowed him to get out in 208 days when he should have been facing at least 46 months, according to that lawyer. Now, even the lady, she hated to read the last one, and it looks like he was convicted of robbery 10 years ago, and even then his level would have been at the highest, trying to make excuses for him. Well, even if he was convicted of that, or even if he was in jail, or even, if he had been convicted for those other crimes, he still would have had the highest level. So that necessarily, he didn't have to get convicted for the other crimes. Like, it's a shame that this is the way it is when it comes to white people committing these heinous crimes. They're almost reluctant and hesitant to mention his criminal history. Now, this last one is going to go a little bit deeper, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to let you go. But I just wanted to share this video because this have received, I think I heard about it when it happened, but it just went away in the blink of an eye, like a thief in the night. And, I just find it hard to believe where, all of this tough stance on violence and criminals and law and order and gun control and tough on crime doesn't get mentioned in this instance, where this guy has a long criminal history, had 10-year sentence, and just committed some heinous crimes, but yet and still he was allowed to go free. So where's all that energy that is portrayed towards, just an example, the Cincinnati brawl suspect? Just watch this, then I'm going to let you go.
Meanwhile, the man accused of shooting and killing Deputy Ming is currently being held in the Johnson County Detention Center. He's been booked for capital murder. Now, we've looked into the history of the suspect, Shawn Harris. In fact, my colleague Abby Dodge was doing that today, so I want to bring her in right now. And Abby, I understand that you stopped by the courthouse today to learn a little bit more about his history. What did you find out?
Yeah, Caitlin, I've been here a couple of times today, actually, and we know that 38-year-old Shawn Harris has a handful of convictions, both in the state of Kansas and in Missouri.
If we look at his charges and sentencing chronologically, many of them overlap. So here's a timeline. Starting off in August of 2011, Harris was arrested for property theft. Court records don't clearly explain what was taken during this incident. A judge sentenced Harris to probation. Then in February of 2012, the prosecutor charged him with aggravated assault and theft. Court records show this charge involved a gun inside of a Waffle House for property totaling just $12.75. A judge sentenced Harris to 10 months in jail. But while this played out in the courts, Harris was charged with aggravated robbery in May of 2012. Court records say Harris and others took a 2007 Ford Mustang and credit card. Documents say Harris did have a firearm during this robbery. He was sentenced to almost 11 years. During the same time, Harris was arrested and charged in Missouri for tampering with a vehicle. While he was in Lafayette County Jail, he was also charged with damage to jail property. All of these charges came out to 11 and a half years in prison. Many of the convictions Harris faced were felonies, which means he should not have had a gun. According to Kansas Department of Corrections, Harris was discharged from state custody on December 11th, 2024.
So, Abby, do we know anything about charges yet?
Well, Caitlin, we know that he has been booked on that capital murder charge, and there is a press conference happening tomorrow where we will hopefully learn more about that as well. I want to mention, too, that I reached out to the KCK Police Department, and they said that the first time that they had been to that address was for that shooting on Saturday.
But we haven't heard back from Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office just yet on that.
Right. They're dealing with a lot right now. Those requests have been put into their email inbox, but they're taking them some time to get back to us.
Understandably so.
All right. So there you hear the extensive, more detailed criminal history. He was a car thief, a robber, credit card scammer who had just did 11 and a half years. Recently reached December the 11th. 2024, and he already started to rack up more charges in which he should have been locked up. As you heard the reporter say, well, we reached out to Anderson County, but they didn't respond. Of course, they're not going to respond. Why did you guys let this guy out? Because as I mentioned before, he has the complexion for the protection, for the connection that allows him to be out and take the life of Elijah Ming. And rest in peace to Elijah Ming, as the man said, he is one of the good ones. They said, I think the criminal, the thug Shawn Harris, is being held on $2 million bond, and they're going to seek the death penalty. However, they went back. Another article I was looking at, the lawyer was like, well, considering the death penalty, you have to go back to a person's childhood and how he was treated as a child and what type of care he received. All of those things, trying to immediately, get this man or get that off the table for that man when this was a heinous crime from a heinous individual who shouldn't even been out of jail to begin with. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. Y'all see the number 919-587-7782. Thank y'all for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And as always, peace and blessings.